All right, and welcome to the GSMC Sports Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. All right, we got a packed show today, meaning we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So, today, the 2026 World Cup was awarded to the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, the first three-nation hosted World Cup, I believe. So we're going to be talking about that today. We'll also be talking about what's a better situation to go to, okay? Let's say that LeBron ends up going somewhere else besides LA. If you're Paul George, let's say he's deciding between LA and OKC, because it seemed like he did enjoy playing in Oklahoma City. What's a better situation to go to, and what's better for, like, as far as winning in the future? So we'll be talking about that. Spain fired their manager a day before the World Cup starts. I'll be giving my thoughts on all of that. And then for the fourth segment, we'll be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. Talking about Kyrie Irving said he's not going to, it wouldn't make sense for him to accept an extension before his contract is up. So I'll be talking about that along with a few other things going on, like I said, in the world of sports. So let's get into it. All right. Obviously, like I said, the 2026 World Cup is being awarded to the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. I think the opening game was going to be in Mexico, but the majority of host cities are in the U.S., so I mean, it's exciting. All right. And I think this is good for the U.S. national team. Okay. Obviously, I mean, it's good for Mexico and Canada as far as it all goes, but the U.S., obviously, we saw didn't make it this year. Okay. And one thing too, actually we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the segment, but nonetheless, so yeah, they didn't make it this year. Obviously now you've got all the younger academy players pretty much playing for you. Not the academy players, I should say, but the guys who are playing. There's a lot of people playing over in Europe, still haven't been old enough, I guess, worthy of a call-up, I guess, which would make sense, just given that I feel like some of these guys at least maybe should have got some call-ups, because I mean, the U.S. always spent time calling up the same players, like the same Altidore, Dempsey, Bradley. They never really switched it up. They always had their same team, so you never saw anything different. But nonetheless, now those guys who never really got a shot are out there. And, I mean, they've looked good so far. They held a 1-1 draw to France. Obviously, France was more on the attacking side and probably should have scored more than a goal. But nonetheless, I mean, the result was 1-1, so the U.S. is going to be happy about that. They did beat Bolivia. Granted, it wasn't that great of a Bolivia team, but nonetheless, you just want to see that these players are playing well. And like I said, as far as the 2026 World Cup, this gives you, I guess, a little bit more of an incentive and boost to help the development of these younger players. All right. Given that the U.S. is kind of like on a redemption story right now, okay? Meaning that, I mean, you missed the World Cup here. Now you got your World Cup coming out in 8 years in your home. You're going to want to be ready for that. And obviously, they'll make it. I mean, the teams who host the World Cup are always qualifying. Also, too, this is going to be the first 48-team World Cup, I believe. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I feel like it's a bit much, maybe a little bit too gimmicky, I'd say. Okay, just given the fact that 32 was always fine. There was nothing that needed to be changed about the World Cup now. I just feel maybe it's for FIFA to make more money. I'm not really sure. All right, yeah, so it'll be let me see. Or is it 2022 where it's 48 teams? Either way, I'm not for the 48-team World Cup. I don't need to see like weaker CONCACAF teams making it in, or even weaker UEFA teams. I think it's fine with 32 here, but obviously FIFA's always got to change something just to, I guess, make more money. Before being awarded this World Cup, the U.S. could have won the bid for the 2022 World Cup, but obviously Qatar got that one because of a bribe. So now I guess, like I said, it's a couple of redemption stories. Now the U.S. gets the World Cup in 2026, and we get to see what this new look U.S. team is going to look like at home. And all these players, too, by the time 2026 gets here, those players that are playing now should be in their prime, so that we could have a pretty good U.S. team, honestly. All right? And I'm not going to go out and say that they'd have the opportunity to, like, a chance to win it, but nonetheless, playing at home, especially for the U.S., like, imagine they play in Columbus against, or even if, I don't know. Is Columbus still going to be there if the crew end up moving to Austin, Texas? I'm not sure about that. All right, but like I said, Pulisic right now is 19 years old. 8 years from now, he'll be about 27, 26, depending on his birthday or win the World Cup, or yeah, his birthday, whether it's before, summer, or after. But unless he'll be 20, yeah, like I said, 26 or 27. All these other guys are about as young as he is. Okay, we saw Julian Green, who scored against France. I believe it was, and he's like what 18, I think, right now. Might be 19, also like Pulisic. And Green's looking like maybe he could be a decent player for the U.S. We saw him in the World Cup in 2014. All right, he even scored against Belgium. So, U.S. definitely, I do like this, like I said. Okay, I think it not only just is good for the countries, but nonetheless it helps motivate the U.S. national team a little bit more to do better as far as qualifying. Again, they'll be already qualified for 2026, but I mean going forward also. So, we'll see about that. And one thing I've noticed too with this World Cup, with the U.S. not being in it, it's not being very much covered. Okay, there's no like real hype around it. Fox has been sending some stuff out. Fox is trying to get to it. Like ESPN, you don't really see ESPN covering the World Cup at all. Okay, and that's kind of like the ESPN and hockey. Ever since the ESPN stopped doing the contract with the NHL as far as the TV rights, ESPN really chooses not to cover hockey. Of course, they'll be at the Stanley Cup and all, and they'll show a few highlights on SportsCenter and whatnot, but it's not really an emphasis like the NBA or the NFL is. All right, the two leagues that they have TV contracts with, and also the MLB. Okay. And we're seeing that now with the World Cup, and I'm assuming so. That's because they don't have the TV rights this year. All right. And it's going to be a bit different watching it on Fox rather than ESPN. I feel like I've always watched it on ESPN, I believe. Yeah. I don't think it's ever really been on Fox, has it? Unless way back when. But nonetheless, yeah, it is going to be a little bit different. I saw too that Fox is only going to be sending like a handful of commentators to the World Cup. A lot of them are going to be doing it from inside the studio. So that's going to be, I don't know. Maybe that'll be a bit different, but it seems to be the way everyone's going right now as far as commentating games and whatnot. But of course, we got the World Cup going on tomorrow. I was talking with Tate before the show about it. He's not the biggest soccer fan. I was trying to get him hyped up a bit for the World Cup. He wasn't having it. That didn't help also that I said that Russia and Saudi Arabia are going to be the first game tomorrow. But nonetheless, I'll definitely be up for that one. I'm curious to see how Russia does here. Okay, really struggled coming into the World Cup. They didn't really do well with in their friendlies. And it's just a point where I think they could beat Saudi Arabia. I think they'll be fine doing that. But it's just, Uruguay's going to be tough. I don't see that happening. And I think the game that's going to matter most is the one against Egypt. Okay? Both of these teams are kind of, I'd say, normally they wouldn't be here. All right, Russia was in the last World Cup. Egypt, I can't remember the last time they were in it. But nonetheless, it's kind of like, one team out of Russia and Egypt is going to actually perform well and surprise some people is all I'm trying to say. All right, I'm assuming that's going to be whatever team makes it second out of the group. All right. But nonetheless, yeah, we got the game at 8 o'clock tomorrow. I'll definitely be up for that. As far as a few dark horses, I guess, for the World Cup, I'd say Uruguay. They'd have to be a dark horse. They always tend to go pretty far. I think, actually, last World Cup, they only made it to the quarterfinals. But nonetheless, when you got Diego Godin, Jose Maria Jimenez, and then Luis Suarez and Edson Cavani up top, you tend to do well. All right. And you don't really need me to tell you that. But nonetheless, Uruguay definitely is a dark horse. Spain kind of scares me. Again, we'll be talking about them in the third segment. But as far as this World Cup dark horses, I don't know. I kind of like England. I feel like for some reason this year might be a little bit different. All right. So a lot of the new faces out here now, the younger generation of England's team. And normally, I mean, you wouldn't expect them to, well, actually, no, the expectations are always pretty high for England. Not like to go out and win it or whatnot, but just to put out a decent showing. And it's just they always just come up short. That's it. They always come up short in the big game. I guess I think I said it on the soccer podcast yesterday, I believe, that they are pretty much, they're just the Tottenham of international teams. All right. But I do think that this year it might be different. I'm not really sure why. All right, it's just this feeling with England. I think Raheem Sterling's going to play well. I'm curious to see how well Harry Kane does as the captain. All right, I'm curious to see what England ends up putting out in the midfield, along with the defense, too. They got some questions at center back, I feel. And then also, I mean, they got to decide which one of the three keepers they want to put out there. And I feel like you couldn't go wrong with either, honestly. So it's going to be very interesting there. And like I said, as far as the 2026 World Cup, I think that's probably more so better for the U.S. than it is for Canada or Mexico. Not saying that it's not for either of them, but I say it benefits the U.S. a little bit more, kind of ramp up the development and all that. So I mean, yeah, I'll definitely try to make it out to the 2026 World Cup. Who knows where I'll be at that time, but nonetheless, I mean, as far as this World Cup, very excited. Starting tomorrow. Like I said, Russia, Saudi Arabia, not the best of looking games, I'll say. Who knows? Maybe Saudi Arabia could pull off an upset, maybe pull out a draw, or even a possible win against Russia. I mean, it'll be tough. I mean, the game says it starts at 8 o'clock. I'm sure with all the festivities, we'll probably have to wait till about 9 because, FIFA loves to go crazy with their pregame festivities as far as these big tournaments. So we'll see what ends up going down, but definitely excited. I say, as far as my favorite to win the World Cup this year, I normally go Germany, but it's very rare for a team to win back-to-back World Cups, so I guess I'll stay away from them. I'll say I want to go France, but usually it's just something ends up happening, whether they come up short or there's some kind of in-house problems. Brazil, maybe, but it seems like that's too obvious of a pick there. Maybe Argentina. I'll go France. I'll go out of my comfort zone to pick France there. So I'll say France is my pick. But nonetheless, we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about what would be a better option to go to, the Oklahoma City Thunder or Los Angeles Lakers. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We spent the first segment talking about this World Cup and also the U.S., Mexico, and Canada being awarded the 2026 World Cup. Very excited for that. It's 8 years from now, but I'm assuming I'll be at one of the games, hoping. All right, so we talked about that, and now for this segment, we're going to head over to the NBA and talk about pretty much, obviously we know that LeBron James has a decision to make this summer. This segment's not going to be about him, but more so, it's about what he decides. Okay, meaning, let's say that LeBron says, you know what, I'm not going to go to LA. I'm not going to go play for the Lakers, even though they are the favorites according to Vegas right now, and I do think he'll probably end up there. But nonetheless, let's say that he doesn't go to LA. Okay? That leaves Paul George with a question. Where do I go? Okay, let's say that his two top choices are LA or OKC. All right, and he's deciding between both. What is a better option as far as, I guess, winning? All right, would it be the Lakers or would it be OKC? And I'm not talking about I'm not talking about like just regular season or anything like that, but I'm more so talking about teams who could do well in the playoffs. All right, and obviously you're only going to get as far as the Warriors let you get. All right, so I'm not expecting like championships or anything like that. All right, I don't even think LeBron and Paul George with the Lakers could go out and beat the Warriors. I think the Warriors would probably win that series in 6 or 5 games, honestly. 6 games, I'm not giving Paul George and LeBron enough credit, so 6 games probably. Maybe 7 if the Lakers were that good. Of course, it's going to be tough to stop KD and all that, but nonetheless, that's besides the point. All right, let's say that, like I said, those were his top 2 choices. Let's look at both, okay? Let's look at OKC. I wasn't a big fan of OKC this past season. I didn't like the way that they played. I thought they were a bad team. Okay, even though, yes, they did make the playoffs as, a 4 seed, I believe? Or a 5 seed? Either way, it didn't matter. All right. And I just think that if Paul George were to go back to OKC, it'd be pretty much a little bit of the same as last year. Okay? You'll have your ups, you'll have your downs during the regular season. You'll make the playoffs, but you'll probably lose in the first round again. Okay? Let's see who's going to be better. The Lakers are already going to be better. I'm not saying that they'd beat OKC, but nonetheless, that's going to be a tough team to get past. Okay, obviously the Jazz. Who else? Portland, I don't know. Them getting swept in the first round kind of wasn't great. Obviously, the Spurs are going to be a whole lot better this season. Obviously, yeah, when Kawhi Leonard's out there. All right, let's see who else. Pelicans should be good. The Timberwolves should be better. So, I mean, it's going to be tough either way for OKC next year to make it out the first round if Paul George ends up going there. All right. And like I said, I mean, it just didn't seem like him, Westbrook, and Carmelo Anthony really worked well together. It seemed the offense was kind of just robotic at times, okay? And there just wasn't a good flow about it. When you got Russell Westbrook holding on to the ball for about 22 seconds of the shot clock, then passes it out, you got to shoot it then. It just didn't seem like there was a real flow or plan at the offensive side of the ball, all right? So, I mean, OKC, of course, he'll probably make the playoffs, but you won't get far. As far as the Lakers with Paul George are kind of like a wild card team. All right. I think Lakers had the 9th best record in the West, possibly 10th, I think. I think it might have been 10th in the West. All right. Or actually, it might have been 11th because you got the Clippers and Nuggets. But either way, Lakers pretty much turned it on after the All-Star break. We're playing well. We're competing with the top teams and even winning a bunch of games. All right. So you could tell already, even without Paul George, that the Lakers were on their way up. They did right. I think Lonzo, obviously with him, you had a lot of expectations, okay? Or it seemed the majority of the basketball community did. All right, and I'd say he probably didn't live up to those expectations, but I'd say those expectations were probably set those were a little unreachable, all right? Because fact of the matter is, as good as Lonzo is, he was a rookie. He's not as good as Ben Simmons, all right? And it seems wasn't as good as Jason Tatum or even Donovan Mitchell, but nonetheless, I think for a rookie season, Lonzo Ball did well. All right, I think he finished with 10, 7, and 7. I think that's pretty solid for a guy in his first season. All right, especially playing for the Lakers and all that pressure that LeVar Ball puts on him. All right, let me look at Lonzo's exact stats and see exactly how well he did this season. All right, because obviously he struggled shooting the ball and all, couldn't really shoot the three, couldn't shoot a free throw to save his life. So yeah, from three he shot 30%, from the free throw line he shot 45%, and then his overall field goal percentage was 36%. So yeah, he finished with 10 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. So I mean, as far as his shooting numbers, they're not great. His free throw numbers either, but as far as like his averages and all, they look pretty good, I'd say. Let's see, he was taking about 6 threes a game. He needs to bring that down, and taking about 5 twos, whether I was driving in or mid-range. Didn't get to the free throw line a lot either. Only got to the line about 1 time a game on average. So, obviously he's got a lot to work on there. He did average nearly 2 steals, 1.7 steals a game. All right, so like I said, I think that's a very decent, a very good, I'd say, rookie year. It's just you got these out-of-this-world players in Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, and Donovan Mitchell pretty much playing like they're seasoned vets, so it makes it a little bit unfair for the guys who aren't up to speed like that. But nonetheless, like I said, you got a solid player in Lonzo. All right, Brandon Ingram seems to finally be coming into his own a bit, developing more into what we expected him to be. All right, he kind of reminds me of a Kevin Durant type. All right, I'm not saying he's as good as Durant or anything like that, but more so, very lengthy player. Okay, he's 6'9". Maybe that's a bit wrong. Maybe he's a bit like 6'10", 6'11", possibly. All right, but nonetheless, did well this past season shooting the ball. Averaged 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Shot 47% from the field, 39% from 3. All right, probably got to work on his free throws a bit more. He only shot 68% from the field or from the free throw line this season. And like I said, he went from 9 points a game to 16. That's a big jump. All right, and it seems like he's starting to become a better scorer. Okay, like I said, shot well from 3 this year at 39%, and shot well overall well field goal percentage. All right, and like I said, as far as comparing him to Kevin Durant or saying he looks like a young Kevin Durant, they play the exact same way. Okay, neither are relatively big or anything like that. Neither are really going to overpower you, but it's just they're too athletic and tall enough to the point where you can't really do much to stop them. All right, And it's not like you could throw center on him because the center's not going to be able to keep up with the footwork and the agility and all that. Stretch four, I mean, usually they're not athletic enough. Like, let's say you put a Kevin Love on him. That's not going to work. Okay? Only a few guys, I think, could do decently, and that means, like, hold them maybe 25 or whatnot on a average shooting night. Would be guys like Al Horford, probably, I don't know, Draymond, guys like that. All right? And Draymond and KD obviously play on the same team, but obviously you get what I'm saying there. All right? And like I said, I mean, usually guys who play the 3 spot aren't as tall as him, so it's a lot difficult to get in his face as far as contesting a shot and all that. And that's, like I said, that's what I see with Brandon Ingram there, so that's a plus right there. Okay, you got Kyle Kuzma, who played extremely well this season, kind of, at least for me, came out of nowhere. Obviously, we saw what he did during the Summer League, but I don't really look too much into the Summer League, given that you're not playing against the best of the best. But this year, he averaged 16 points, 6 rebounds, shot 45% from 3, 36% from, or 45% from the field, 36% from 3. All right. Like I said, I wasn't really paying attention to Kuzma too much during the Summer League. All right, it was more so about Lonzo Ball and whatnot, but obviously Kuzma showed that that whole Summer League performance wasn't just a fluke or anything like that. He actually could bring something to the table, and he showed that obviously this season. Wasn't really much of a starter, okay, up until a couple of guys got hurt, but nonetheless did well to come off the bench and do a good job. All right. So obviously you got a good shooter there, and it's just a point where you bring Paul George into the fold, Lakers offense gets instantly better. Okay, they become a way better scoring team, and I think that honestly LA probably would be the best spot for him. Like I said, it's just with OKC, you know what you're getting. It's not really the best fit. Plus, Paul George is from LA, and why not play for that young team? Especially when you're going to be the top guy there. All right? And I'm sure even, too, you bring in Paul George, if you're the Lakers, you could also go out and get a Boogie Cousins. Okay? Boogie said he's going to go, it seems like he's going to go wherever the money is. And I don't blame him for that. All right? I don't think New Orleans is going to be a team that offers him big money, just given that it seems they kind of want to go the route of, we'll give you a 1-year deal or whatnot with a decent amount of money just to see where you're at as far as your Achilles injury. And then you got teams like the Mavs and even the Lakers possibly, if they don't land LeBron, who could just offer him max money. Okay? The Mavs, I could see a team that's doing that, just given the fact that they really don't have much to lose there. All right? It seems like giving DeMarcus Cousins a max contract seems like a bad idea. But even if you're the Lakers, I mean, like I said, you'll probably have one other slot open for the max. Besides Paul George, and if LeBron's not there and you're not trading for Kawhi Leonard, why not go after Boogie? All right? I'm sure maybe somehow, some way he can rework his game or even maybe come back half as good as what he was, and that's still pretty decent because obviously you're going to have Paul George there. And you're not going to need Boogie to be the top guy like he was in Sacramento or even in New Orleans back with him and Anthony Davis. All right? So it's going to be real interesting there. But like I said, for me, I'd say that LA is probably the best place to go for Paul George, even if LeBron's not there. So we'll see what ends up happening. Obviously, free agency is until next month, but we got the draft coming up soon, so we'll see about that. But like I said, we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking more about the World Cup. I'm going to be talking about Spain firing their manager, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. We've spent the first two segments talking about the U.S., Mexico, and Canada getting the 2026 World Cup. Very excited for that. Talked about in the second segment the topic of what's a better place to go to if you're Paul George, LA or OKC if LeBron ends up not going to LA. So I talked about that. I decided it was LA. At least for me, it would be, given that I think they are more ready for the future rather than OKC. OKC could make the playoffs the next couple of years or whatnot with Paul George, but more so you're not getting out the first round. The Lakers, they haven't reached their full potential, so you still got to wait on some things, but nonetheless, I think that they will be fine going forward, and there will be a team making the playoffs, maybe even this year, all right, with Paul George. So we'll see what ends up going down there. And then for this segment, all right, going back to the World Cup, not 2026, 2018, Spain, one of the favorites to win it, all right, got a great midfield, got great defenders, great keeper, strikers, for me, not great, but nonetheless, a solid team, all right. I am not relatively sold on them, and now I have even more so a reason to not be, all right. So obviously we saw Zidane leave his job at Real Madrid, decided to resign, and turns out that the now former Spain coach, Julen Lopetegui, I don't know, I might have botched that, decided that, yeah, I'm going to take that job, okay? And we all knew, and I think we all figured that he wouldn't take over until after the World Cup, which makes sense, okay? But as the story goes, it seems that, I believe, Spain's national team president, I believe, was not too happy about it. Yeah, it was the president. He wasn't too happy about it, okay? And he decided, you know what, we're just going to fire you a day before the World Cup. Or 2 days, whatever. All right. Actually, I think it was today. Yeah, it was today. This morning, I believe. All right, and I feel that this is a very bad move to make, to fire the coach. Because he's led them through qualifiers. They haven't even lost with him. And now everything that he set up, drawn up as far as tactics and all, I mean, you got Spain's new manager, okay, coming in saying that he isn't going to, let's see, his name is Fernando Hierro, says he's not going to change up the tactics or anything like that because you can't. All right, Spain has been playing this way and developing this way for the last few years as far as World Cup qualifying, and you can't just change the dynamic or tactics of a team that's been doing this for years, like I said. All right, but nonetheless, I feel that this is a very bad move to fire him, especially given the timing of it, okay? You can't do this before the World Cup. If you're the team president, I understand you're frustrated, angry, and all that he decided to take a job right before the World Cup or whatnot, but he's still going to manage the team for the World Cup and then leave after. If you're the team president, I feel you just got to swallow your pride there, okay? Because I think this hurts Spain more than anything. They already had a problem, I feel, as far as not having great strikers, okay? And obviously that's not, actually it might be, I was going to say probably not as big as I assume it'll be. But of course, when you had Diego Costa not being able to do much for his team, I mean, who out of the midfield do you expect to score? Okay? So that's just my whole point there. And then, like I said, now, I mean, you got a team who I felt was very close to their manager, believed in his tactics and all, and followed him. And now they got to deal with a new one. All right? And I'm sure they're going to have their eye on the prize and whatnot. But nonetheless, like I said, this isn't something that you want going in. And I think this kind of opens up Brazil's chance to win it all even more, okay? Because like I said, with Germany, I think a lot of them are assuming that Germany are the favorites and do have a really good chance at winning it, but it is very rare for a team to win back-to-back World Cups, like I said. All right, so I kind of don't think Germany's going to be able to do it. Spain's already dealing with this issue where it's more so created by the team president and didn't really need to become an issue, but of course with him firing him, it has. So there's that. France are a very good team, probably one of the best teams as far as overall talent, but I feel like Brazil are better. And then who else am I missing? Then you got Argentina, okay? And we've talked about a lot about Argentina so far on the show, but not on this show, but in past episodes. But obviously with them, they aren't as good as Brazil from top to bottom, but when you do have Messi on your team, you are regarded as one of the best teams. Okay, with Argentina, obviously, they're searching for their first major trophy since 1991, I think it is. All right, have lost in a couple of Copa America finals. Lost in the World Cup final in 2014. All right, and seemingly can just come up short. Messi also, it seems that what's going to elevate him above all the past players and even Ronaldo is for him to win a World Cup, which is, I think, a bit unfair. Okay? But, of course, in the world of football, it's different. It's about the trophies, no matter if it's a team sport or whatnot, for an individual player. Okay? So I think, yeah, this kind of does help out Brazil more so in a way that it wouldn't. Okay? As far as Brazil, we've talked about them. I mean, this is all about redemption for them. All right? I mean, the 7-1 match against Germany back in 2014, no one's forgotten about that. That's still pretty fresh in our memory, I feel. All right? What was it, 5 goals for the first 25 minutes of the match? I mean, that was brutal watching that. All right, and obviously, they got a tiny bit of redemption, I guess, beating Germany in the gold medal Olympic game for the soccer tournament. We had Neymar hit the game-winning penalty, I believe it was. But more so, that's the Olympics, and as fun as they are to watch as far as the soccer tournament, it's nowhere near the World Cup. And obviously, this is like I said, no one's talking about Brazil winning the Olympics now. The gold medal tournament for their gold medal game for the Olympics soccer tournament. All right, no one's talking about that. It's all about what can they do to redeem themselves for 2014. All right, and that's the way it should be. They should have a lot of pressure on themselves. That 7-1 game was inexcusable. Even if Neymar and Thiago Silva aren't playing, I don't think Brazil is bad enough to where you're missing those two guys and you play like you are Tahiti back in the Confederations Cup in 2013, I think it was. All right. I don't think that really flies well too much. Like I said, as far as Spain goes, I mean, you got the new manager saying he's not going to touch any of the tactics. He's going to keep it all the same, pretty much going to keep Spain on the team on the same path. But nonetheless, I mean, it is going to be different, and I think it is going to be difficult for this team to pretty much get past this and do well. All right. As good as they are, stories like this are never good for a national team heading into the biggest tournament of the world. Okay, you always want to avoid stuff like this. Like with Mexico, it seems like the party thing with them wasn't as big a deal as the media is making it, but nonetheless, you don't want to have that story over your head where you're constantly being asked about it going into the World Cup. If you're Spain, you're Sergio Ramos, you don't want to be constantly asked about the fact, is it different since you have a new manager out there? And the old manager pretty much had you guys on this position, and now it's looking like you guys aren't doing too well. All right, so they're going to constantly get those questions. Like I said, I mean, it couldn't affect them, or it might not affect them, but of course, you just don't want to deal with the media pressure of it all. So it's going to be real interesting to see how well they do. Again, they're playing in a group with Morocco, Iran, and Portugal. They should make it out the group easily, even if, say, they were to lose to Portugal or whatnot. All right, they should beat Morocco and Iran. So it's going to be, like I said, real interesting to see who their starting striker is and how well they play and how they deal with their manager being let go. All right, and like I said, I think this was one where the team president probably should have just swallowed his pride rather than firing the man. Because you're Spain. You can't have this kind of media distraction on you. All right. Of course, he is the team president. He could do what he wants. But like I said, it was a move of frustration. I think, like I said, he should have probably waited till after the World Cup. All right. But like I said, mentioned in the first segment, first game's tomorrow. Russia, Saudi Arabia. Not the best of games there. I feel like we could have got Russia and Egypt, and I feel that would have been fine. Okay. Russia, Uruguay, obviously, would have been cool, but maybe it's just FIFA doesn't want Russia to play a difficult team in their first match. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the way the draw worked out. Okay, but like I said, Russia, Egypt, we could have did with that rather than Russia and Saudi Arabia. At least give us Mo Salah versus the home country in the first game. All right. Would that be too much to ask for? I don't think so. But nonetheless, like I said, Russia, Saudi Arabia, make sure you're up for it. I'll be up for it, definitely. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of sports. All right, we got Kyrie Irving saying it would make no sense to sign an extension along with anything else going on. So stay tuned, and I will be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
All right, and welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast. So far today, we've talked a lot of soccer, okay? Talked about the U.S., Mexico, and Canada getting the 2026 World Cup. Also talked a little bit about this upcoming World Cup in the first segment. Second segment, we talked about OKC and LA. What's the better option for Paul George to go to, even if LeBron's not in LA? And for the third segment, we talked about Spain firing their manager days before the World Cup starts. A bit of a bold move, a bit of a dumb move for me, but nonetheless, I mean, it's the team president. He can do what he wants, I guess. All right, but like I said, we'll see if this affects the team going forward in the World Cup. Okay, so we got that. And now, I know we've talked about Kyrie Irving and the Celtics before, but nonetheless, touch on it a little bit more since he's talked more about it. All right, Kyrie Irving has been in the news because he says it wouldn't be wise or smart to sign an extension now. Okay? Before everyone freaks out, he's right. All right? Because you'd be leaving about $80 million on the table rather than if you just opt out of your deal or your contract runs up out in 2019, I believe it is. All right? Why would you leave $80 million on the table just to sign now when you could just sign with the same team and make it $80 million more? This doesn't mean that Kyrie's going to definitely leave Boston or whatnot. This just means that he's trying to make more money, I feel. All right? Maybe he's just not sure about Boston yet, for whatever reason that might be. Okay, it's a possibility. But like I said, I more so just think that it's a point of, how do you say? I think he's just trying to make more money here. All right? But of course, I think the Knicks, isn't he from New York, I believe? And I think the Knicks were his favorite team growing up. So, I mean, that's the team that's been kind of thrown out there as far as the Kyrie Irving sweepstakes. All right? But I do think he'll probably end up in Boston still, unless, of course, they end up taking LeBron James. Okay, and Kyrie was asked about that. What would happen? Like, what would he do if LeBron was signed to the team? And he says pretty much he's been around this business for a long time. Everything's pretty much happened, and he saw everything, so nothing would surprise him or whatnot. And I think if it's in Boston's best interest for its long-term plans, then you probably don't sign LeBron. Okay? Just given the fact that if Kyrie is willing to sign an extension, I think you're better off going that way because LeBron's already 33. I'm not saying like he's going to go down as far as play or whatnot, but you don't want to stunt the development of a guy like Jason Tatum or even a Jaylen Brown. Okay, plus you already got Gordon Hayward there. Like I said, Kyrie, Al Horford, who had a great playoff postseason run this year. So I think Boston is probably better off staying put. But of course, if LeBron wants to take a meeting with you, you take that meeting. Okay? You don't want to, I wouldn't think you'd turn down the best player in the world to come play for your team. All right? So it'll be interesting to see what ends up going down. But of course, like I said, Kyrie Irving's in the news. And even with Kyrie Irving, I mean, I don't think Danny Ainge probably should have been too confident as far as thinking Kyrie would re-sign with them either way. Kyrie seems to be a guy where he's just going to go wherever his mind takes him. Okay? If one day he's like, I don't want to be in Boston, then he'll just leave Boston. All right? That's exactly what he did in Cleveland pretty much. Didn't want to be there, forced to trade out. Like I said, he could do that with Boston if eventually he just gets tired of it. All right. But nonetheless, we'll see what's going on with him. Like I said, I doubt that he's not going to sign it. He's not going to sign an extension this summer, but I still think he'd probably sign one with Boston. It's just a matter of getting more money there. Okay. Let's see what else is going on in the world of sports. I mean, we could just continue to talk about the World Cup. All right. Or we could talk about, let's see, what else we got going on. Yeah, Juventus boss. He rejected the Real Madrid offer. And I think Madrid I think they did do well as far as getting the Spain manager, I should say. Just given the fact that Spain obviously were going through a bit of a crisis in the past World Cup, I'd say. Given the fact that they didn't even make it out the group after winning it in 2010. All right, and then you got this guy come in, and Spain's already looking like one of the favorites again. Okay? So it's going to be, like I said, I wonder how this coach is going to do what's he going to do as far as managing Ronaldo. Because, I mean, as odd as it sounds, I mean, we have seen this new Real Madrid coach before say that he always thought Messi was better than Ronaldo. And we know Ronaldo does have a huge ego. Maybe he doesn't like that. And of course, we've been seeing more and more rumors as far as him making his exit. Okay. So maybe that's a possibility there. All right. Let's see. What else do we got going on? Let's just keep going on with the soccer. Let's see. PSG in some financial fair play trouble. PSG got to come up with $60 million, 60 million euros for the end of the month to avoid any problems. Sanctions and stuff like that, like probably banning them from a couple of transfer windows or whatnot. And let me see. Yeah, they need to raise the 60 million euros. But it's just pretty much, like I said, to keep up with the financial fair play rules. PSG just might have to sell a couple of players. And if your team trying to get something off of PSG as far as their players, you got to lowball them now. Okay, you could probably get them a whole lot cheaper than what they were for. And that sounds weird talking about players like that, but I guess that's just the way the transfer window sets it up. But nonetheless, like I said, PSG always seems to be in some financial fair play trouble. All right, given that, I mean, you did pay, $221 million for Neymar? All right, I saw, too, Madrid might pay 309 euros. I'm not sure how true that rumor was, just given that you never know what's true as far as the soccer media, football media, and all. But nonetheless, yeah, PSG gonna have to sell some players in order to come up with that 60 million. All right, let's see. They avoided sanctions in 2015, 2016, and 2017. So they've always come close, but now it's just a point where you got to do it again. You got to break even. Okay, and we'll see if they do. I mean, we got the transfer window already going down right now. It's been flying pretty much so far. I mean, there's been a lot of players going a whole lot of different ways. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly PSG does here and who they sell. I mean, maybe you tell Real Madrid, come buy Neymar and we'll be done with it. All right. So we'll see what ends up going down there. Let's see. Anything else going on right now? Any NFL news? We had Lamar Jackson. All right, Baltimore, I guess, said minicamp has been lining him up at different positions with Joe Flacco as the quarterback. I wouldn't look too much into that, given the fact that it seems you draft Lamar Jackson to be your franchise quarterback going forward. You're not going to have him. You're not going to be having him run up the middle or run a slant to the middle of the field in order to get lit up by the safety. You're not going to risk him on that kind of stuff if he is supposed to be your franchise quarterback going forward. All right. So, like I said, I wouldn't even look too much into it. And it seems that Lamar Jackson's been impressing so far in Ravens minicamp. And, I mean, why wouldn't he? I feel like Jackson got a real raw deal as far as this draft offseason. Okay, because of the fact that I think people more so view him as a running quarterback rather than a guy who could throw the ball too. And people don't realize that he did play in a pro-style offense over with Bobby Petrino at Louisville. Okay? It's not like he was running read options every time. All right, but I feel like people didn't either watch him enough or they already got that stereotype on their mind. Okay? Either or, it doesn't really matter. But nonetheless, yeah, you got Ravens players saying he looks like a young Michael Vick. That's a pretty decent comparison, I'd say. I think Michael Vick's arm was a lot stronger and all, but nonetheless, Lamar Jackson is pretty much like Michael Vick 2.0. Just like I said, not a strong enough arm. All right. And I guess Flacco, too, just really hasn't been looking good so far in minicamp. And, I mean, are we sure that Flacco is going to play all 16 games this season? I mean, if you're Baltimore and you see he's not playing well, what's the point of even having him out there? All right, and if that does not come down to it, I mean, who are you going to put in, RG3 or Lamar Jackson? And I think the answer is RG3. If I'm the Ravens, I'm trying to develop Lamar Jackson, get him ready rather than having him out on the field, kind of like what the Browns did with Deshaun Kaiser. I think Deshaun Kaiser could have been a decent quarterback for the Browns, but I felt he needed more time. But obviously in Cleveland, it's a point where, I mean, you've gone through what, about 18, 20 quarterbacks over the years? You need something to work. Okay, and it seems like they're finally getting smart, having Baker Mayfield being the backup behind Tyrod Taylor. Okay. So like I said, I mean, over in Baltimore, I think John Harbaugh definitely has another year left over there, but if he doesn't get it going next year, then maybe he could be on his way out. But like I said, with him drafting Lamar Jackson, I think that secures him another year. So we'll see what ends up going down there. Let's see anything else going on in the world of sports. We got the U.S. Open coming up this weekend. All right, Tiger Woods coming in on his yacht. Going to be staying there. It's a bold move. All right, it's a power move there. Maybe the old Tigers here. All right, and of course, I mean, you got these golfers traveling all over the place, all over the country. You're going to stay in different spots all the time. Why not stay in a spot where you know you're going to be comfortable, which is your yacht? Okay. And I'm sure this yacht has to be about $1 bajillion, but nonetheless, I mean, Tiger's been doing pretty well the last couple of tournaments. All right, played well in his last one. Maybe he could get the job done here at the U.S. Open. I know he was the favorite to win the Masters, but that was one where Vegas knew there would be plenty of money to be made. I mean, putting Tiger as the favorite was a no-brainer there because everyone was on the Tiger hype train ready to bet on him. Everyone thought he was going to win it. Okay? But as far as the U.S. Open, no one's really considering him a favorite or anything like that. Of course, the cameras are all on him just because it's Tiger, but nonetheless, like I said, no one's thinking Tiger's probably going to win it. You're probably looking to see maybe if he plays well, and he does have a shot, obviously, but I don't think anyone's definitively saying that, oh yeah, Tiger's going to win the U.S. Open. All right, so it's going to be really interesting to see what ends up going down there. Well, that's all I got to say about that. We're going to wrap it up here. Today we talked about the U.S., Mexico, and Canada getting the 2026 World Cup. Talked about OKC and LA as far as being spots for Paul George to go to. Talked about Spain firing their manager days before the World Cup. And then for this segment, talked about Kyrie Irving. Talked about the U.S. Open. Let's see what else we talk about. And talked about the Baltimore Ravens. All right, so thanks for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. I will talk to you guys tomorrow, so stay tuned until then.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.